we're starting, I've got 6:33 on there, is that right for everybody? And on our agenda, we need to call the meeting to order and have a pledge. There's a flag right behind Barrett if we want to have our pledge. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Justice for all. Okay. All right, we'll just have a seat, and Daryl is going to get, Mr. Frazier is going to give the invocation. Is he here?
Let's see.
He's muted.
Mr. Frazier?
He's muted.
I do it. Okay. There. No, that's Scott. Okay. You want to, is he around close by, or?
He's in his office, but Brenda.
I'm doing it. Brenda, go ahead.
Brenda, go
Is he
ahead.
coming?
It's fine, Brenda. Just go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah. Brenda, you go ahead.
let's pray. Most gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and all the blessings you bestow on each and every one of us. God, please watch over our nation, over the whole world with this coronavirus, and guide us down the path where we need to go. Lead our administrators to get the best education to our kids and keep our community safe. Give us the knowledge that we need to conduct this meeting. It's the best thing for the district, for the school, for the community. Thank you for all our blessings. May we be servants to you. It's in your Son, Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Brenda. Barrett, did you have any public comments that were, that anybody reached out to you by email?
No, at this time I've looked, and there still aren't any. I was going to read a script that they wanted me to read right quick. So, on March 16th, Governor Greg Abbott granted a request by Attorney General Paxton to temporarily suspend a limited number of open meetings laws to the extent necessary to allow telephonic or video conference meetings in response to COVID-19. For more information about the suspension, you can see TASB Legal Services article entitled Texas Governor Suspends Certain Provisions of Open Meetings Act due to Corona. In accordance with those suspended rules, we certified the following. Notice of this meeting has been posted online for 72 hours. We also added an emergency supplemental item regarding the coronavirus, which required only a 1 hour notice. Although members of the board are not gathered in a central physical location, we do have a quorum in attendance at this meeting by video conference. We're using a meeting by the use of Zoom and live streaming software. Audience members may email comments from the open comments section to bpollard@gatesvillisd.org, which allows for two-way communication for members of the public. For members of the public who've submitted written comments in advance, I would read the comments during the open comment time or during the board's consideration of that item. If you'd like to provide a comment at a future meeting conducted by video conference, just follow the instructions on that meeting notice like we did today. All other meeting procedures will adhere to the board adopted procedures to the extent possible. Audio-video recording of this meeting is being made and will be available to the public at a later date, just like we do with all of our board meetings. And we apologize in advance for any unforeseeable technological difficulties and ask for your patience as we navigate through this tonight. If you have any questions about the laws, you can look at the Attorney General's website for more information. So again, I didn't have any comments at this time for the open comment, so I guess, Marianne, you can move on to consent agenda.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make that motion, Mr. Brenda.
Brenda makes a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Rob is seconding. Are there any questions or discussion? Okay. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please, let's say, just say your yay or nay. All those in favor? And or everybody? Okay, motion carries. And now we're moving on to information items, and at first, I believe it's the Tabor follow-up report with Mr. Webb.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Lee.
Okay,
Dr. Pollard's pulling it up here to share his screen. You'll be able to see it here coming up shortly. This is in reference, just a follow-up on our last meeting when we discussed the Tabor report. And you guys wanted to kind of maybe see a comparison of how we've fared as a district. And when the new AREP system, accountability system came out, it came out in 2017. So I've compared, this is Gatesville ISD's comparison report from 2017, 2018, and 2019. And so it just is just a follow-up on what we discussed last month, just to kind of see how we're faring as a district from year to year. Again, this is star percent that how we've done, all grade levels. This is meets, looking at meets and above, and approaches and above, and those type of things, and all subjects, reading, mathematics, science, social studies. So you can kind of, you guys have the report right there in front of you guys, but you can kind of see where over the past 3 years we've increased in several areas by just a couple points. And this is over hundreds, thousands of tests that our kids have taken over these past few years. Does anybody have any questions before I go any further? Just looking at some of these reports. There's science. Dr. Pollard's got pulled up there. You can see we've done really well in science. It's 5th grade science, 8th grade science, and biology right there. Social studies, about even. Each grade level. And then the next set of charts you see here is academic growth. So this is growth you see from 4th grade reading. So this is comparing their 3rd grade readings to their 4th grade reading, and math reading and math compared to how they did from year to year. This is looking at the same cohort of students right here. 5th grade right here. This is what they from the 80 to 89, 74 to 79. That's what they did as a 4th grader compared to what they did as a 5th grader. Same thing right here. 6th grade was from 5th grade to 6th grade. And so it just kind of gives you a look at how if our kids are progressing. You see some areas where we've done well and some areas where we're lagging a little bit. This is all grades, all subjects. Looking at attendance rate over the past 3 years, you can kind of see where, we have taken a dip there. Dropout rate. This is high school students. And then again, this is back up. That's high school student dropout rate. And you guys, please just stop me if you have any questions about any of these. This is college-ready graduates. And again, this is a lagging indicator. The next one is college career and military readiness. And again, there's a lot of different indicators based on those. Average SAT scores here, from 17, 18, and 19. Again, those are tests that SAT, most of our kids take the ACT, not many of them take the SAT. Here's ACT scores over the past 3 years, student ethnic distribution, just a comparison over the from 18 to 19. This was not available in 2017. Just some more different demographics. You can see our economically disadvantaged, our ESL numbers are increasing. It also has students with disciplinary placements. This is from 16-17 to 17-18. and again, are at-risk students, so that percentage of our population is increasing here in the district. The next is teacher years of experience, just comparing how they were from 18 to 19, they're very similar. Enrollment by program, ESL, career tech, GT, and special ed, very similar. And that's really it. Just wanted to kind of give you guys a comparison just to show how we've been performing over the past 3 years since the new A through F accountability system has rolled out. Does anybody have any questions about any of that?
I don't.
Okay. Well, if you guys think of any, please just holler at me if you have anything, and I'll be pleased to help you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Shane. Next, we're looking at the options regarding the sale of the former Hillside Nursing Home. Barrett?
Yes, the Hillside Nursing Home is a reoccurring topic that we have periodic updates for you guys. The latest thing I guess I could tell you would be when we last met, I believe in January, we talked about Hillside, and we wanted to counter back to Mr. Layla, a potential buyer who bid on the nursing home, that we would reduce the price from $100,000 to $90,000. And when I came back to him with that idea, he proposed another idea, which was a land swap. And he owns the residence located at 2534 East Main Street. And so that lot faces Main Street, and the back of it adjoins the automotive area of Gatesville High School. And so I looked up on the Coryell County Appraisal District information. That lot has a little house on it built in 1955. It was 1,120 square feet, and that sits on 0.351 acres. And the assessed value of that property is $74,920. In contrast, our Hillside property was built in 1977 and is 23,365 square feet. It's commercial property and sits on 2.425 acres and has an assessed value of $936,000. And so that's kind of how those two compare. I asked Mr. Layla, I said, well, is the cash offer off the table, or is it you just going to do the land swap now? And he said no. He said he'd like to see what we thought about the land swap, but it could be a situation where there's a combination possibly where he would pay some and the land. Also, we were approached by a group of citizens who I think they all attend the same church, but they were looking at Hillside as possibly turning it into a not-for-profit women's pregnancy center. And they toured the facility with us and looked at it. They didn't make a formal offer, but they were interested in it. And so again, that was just something to keep you guys in the loop on, that's kind of, we have periodic inquiries about the land. Also, just full disclosure, you know, that property, if things were to go from bad to worse with COVID-19, you know, the county has looked at it just as something that is an asset in the county that could be converted into something for not necessarily people with COVID-19, but just beds or something for people needing a place. Of course, that would be a worst case scenario that's probably pretty unlikely, but just FYI. In addition to that, we do like Hillside right now during the high school renovation because of the storage factor. It's a great place to store things while we're renovating the high school and have trouble finding areas to store items. So with that all being said, what are your thoughts about Hillside selling it to Mr. Layla, the land swap, or doing it more for a non-profit group? What are your thoughts and discussion on that?
Does the Main Street property have any value to the school district? I mean, it's very narrow. It's not even really going to be an access point that we can use. It's a narrow, deep lot. Honestly, I don't see the value of it to the school district.
To me, Rob, I don't see much value in it either. Anybody have any other thoughts on it?
You said that it's coming in handy right now as far as some storage since we're doing the high school renovation.
Yes.
That makes sense just to keep it for that. Much less for the emergency situation possibly.
Right.
So I kind of think we ought to back off with that for a little bit. We could talk about it later. Mr. Lowe might want to offer something else, or this other group, and we can discuss it later. Anybody else?
Are we obligated to Andy right now, or can we listen to an offer from the other people?
We can listen, we can entertain any offers.
Well, I say talk to them and see what their offer is, and leave just tell Andy it's 90,000. We don't want your property, old house.
Yeah.
About to get that old house, you gotta tear it down or do something with it.
Right.
That's my thinking.
Yep. Anybody else?
Any other comments?
Well, I just agree that I don't think that house property is worthwhile to the district to purchase that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good.
So we're kind of all in agreement?
Yeah. Well, I'll circle back to Andy and let him know that really the property holds no interest to us, and I'll inquire where he's at on the counter offer that we made of 90,000 last time, and I'll also circle back to that group of citizens to see if they've made any more firm decisions on plans for it, if they want to do something with it, if they have an offer too. So I just want to kind of keep you guys in the loop and also get your feedback.
Good. Anybody else? Opinions?
So keep working on it.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. And then Baird also, the sale of the other property, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, this is kind of in the same topic. In that group of folks that inquired about the hillside property, Chris Rodriguez, local businessman, Gatesville native, he asked about the property that we almost sold to Captain D's. He was interested in that. As you might recall, that was about 23,000 square feet of land next to Burger King. And he had some ideas of maybe if we were going to sell it, that he would try to get another franchise restaurant to build there. Of course, he didn't have any real definitive plans right now, but he was just going to ask and see if we would ever consider selling it again. And we, last time with Captain D's, drainage was a major issue. The main thing that torpedoed that deal was just as you can recall, the lack of their ability to finalize the sale. We kept having to extend it. But what are your thoughts on reconsidering the sale of that area? Is that something that we just want to hang on to as far as its proximity to the softball fields, and if we ever needed access to that area, there's that little gravel outlet to Business 36? Or is it something where if a local businessman had an idea for a popular franchise to come there, that we might entertain it? What are your thoughts on that?
Personally, I've never
There's
been
still
for selling it, period.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm all for it.
we looked at it, if we sell off a portion, then the part we have left over will be unusable.
Right.
We've been down that road.
Yeah.
We can't get another
Plus
access.
the drainage issue.
Yeah.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, David.
Okay. Well, I wasn't lighting up, so I didn't know. But we can't get any more access off the highway if we sell it, that's it.
Right.
So the access is very valuable, I think.
And I think as whoever bought it, as a service to that person, we wouldn't want them to get in a situation like Captain D's almost got in, where they had no way to drain it, and it was basically useless for them too. So I think it's such that, like y'all are saying, we probably just need to keep it and hang on to it and go from there. Any other thoughts on that?
Anybody else have opinions about that? I'm with that. That's what I agree with you, Baird, about just keeping that. Drainage issues and other stuff are too much, too much for that. Anybody else?
Is this a voting item?
No, it was just information.
No, we're just discussing, commenting. Okay.
Thanks, Cheyenne.
Brenda?
I think we should hold on to it. When I was on the board before, we kind of decided any adjacent land was probably more valuable to keep.
Uh-huh.
With that lot, yeah. Okay.
When we pursued that earlier, you know, it's just not feasible. It's not a good decision for the school to sell that land.
And I don't think it would be good for the buyer either, because you'd encounter so many issues with drainage, it might be more of a curse than a blessing.
Sure could.
I think if we were gonna sell it, we should sell a bigger piece for more money, and that other part of that property is not really any good.
Right.
So it would be just the fact of getting more money for the piece of property. So I think we should just keep it. It's not really useful at this point, I don't think. I don't know how anybody would use it.
Right. Okay.
So Barry, you
That's right. Yep.
you can let him know that we're not really interested in that.
Okay.
But appreciate the fact that he's interested in maybe trying to get something into Gatesville. You know, kind of makes us look bad not to want to sell it, but I just don't feel like we need to.
Right. Right. No, I think he'll be understanding.
Now, there is a house over on Main Street that's available.
Okay. Now we're going on to the action items. And the resolution regarding wage payments during emergency school closing.
Well, Marianne, I added one emergency
Okay.
item. That COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on school meals, funding, and other school issues. And so today I had all the superintendents have a daily webinar with the Commissioner of Education. And as of today, at the time when we spoke, there were 2,877 confirmed cases of COVID in Texas in 124 Texas counties, and there's been 38 deaths in Texas related to it. Governor Abbott should provide some clarity pretty soon for public schools as far as whether or not they will remain open or remain closed or reopen. As you guys probably know, President Trump gave an update this weekend where he wanted the social distancing mandate to go into effect and last through April. And so we're just kind of waiting on Governor Abbott to interpret that for us. He'll probably make a decision. The Commissioner of Education said he'll probably provide clarity on that pretty soon. And so it's likely he'll make the decision for Texas schools here pretty soon as far as what we should do for the next foreseeable future in April. So that being said, we wanted to add something that also came up today, which was very important, and it has to do with feeding the kids and the expense of it. And so, to kind of give you a little bit of background, just hopefully this isn't too confusing, but the TDA, that's the Texas Department of Agriculture. At one point, they were reporting that districts could feed kids during the week and on weekends. Now, the USDA came in and said, no, you misinterpreted what we said. We're not going to reimburse you for weekend meals. And so I think Texas kind of pushed back on the federal government, and after a lot of discussion, the USDA agreed to pay for districts for the weekend meals that we had served through March 29th. But moving forward, any meals served on the weekend would be at the expense of the district. So the other good news was that they agreed to reimburse for dinner meals served during the week, but not on the weekend. So at least they're trying to reimburse us for some of it. So basically, in a nutshell, going forward, the district can continue to pay for breakfast, lunch, and evening meals Monday through Friday and be totally reimbursed for all that. Okay, so that's the good news. Monday through Friday, morning, noon, night meals, all of it will be reimbursed. The bad news is if we're going to serve any meals over the weekend, it will be at a pretty sizable cost. We did some calculations, and it would cost probably $40,000 a month at the numbers we're seeing right now to offer breakfast, lunch, and evening meals for Saturday and Sunday. Now, we've applied for a $35,000 grant, but right now we feel it's too risky to continue serving the weekend meals until the grant is approved. And so we're hoping that the community will be understanding that we don't have in our budget $80,000 to spend on weekend meals for the kids because of this unexpected COVID outbreak. So before we get into the next part of this, what are your initial thoughts about that? So we got some good news, and then we got some bad news about feeding kids on the weekends.
But we've already fed them for March, so we've already incurred that expense.
Well, they are waiving the breakfast and lunch expense on the weekends. They kind of met Texas in the middle and said, okay, since you misunderstood what we said, we're going to waive that. The only thing that we incurred were the 4 evening meals over the Saturday and Sunday that we sit home with kids on Friday.
So you're talking about April and May when you say 2 months.
Correct. So
we don't go back to school at all, is what you're...
Right. So what we're saying is right now financially we're in good shape. We've probably spent about $6,500 to provide those weekend evening meals. But going forward, if we were to continue what we're doing under the new guidance from the USDA, it would be about $40,000 to do that during the month of April if we didn't go back to school, and if we didn't go back in May either, that'd be another $40,000. So potentially it could be $80,000 or upwards for the school district to feed the kids on the weekends. And so we can't absorb that sort of unexpected cost. But like I said, we did apply for a $35,000 grant, and if we get feedback on that quickly, that would allow us to do some of the evening meals for the kids while they're at home on the weekends.
My only thought is, well, basically, are they going to be hungry? Are they going to go hungry? And then I think because we're not having school, our other expenditures are going to be down.
Right.
I want those babies to go hungry. So
How many students are we talking about? How many kids does this involve?
I'm going to turn that over to Gail.
I'm trying to find how I can get to my spreadsheet. Well, we feed about...
put her on the spot.
I know, I'm sorry. My spreadsheet was there, and then this covers it up, and I don't know how to minimize it.
Oh.
But we feed about 1,000 breakfasts and somewhere around
On the weekends?
for every single day, and on the weekends it's times 3. So you're looking at 2,000 breakfasts for Saturday and Sunday. Lunches are going to be somewhere around 600 and about $650 for supper. We feed a lot of meals lately. Are all of those families in dire need, or is it just an easier way? I mean, people are trying to save money because they're just not sure what's going to happen. The reason USDA went back on no weekends is because they're saying during a normal school year, you would not be allowed to feed on weekends. And so, even though we're following a summer meal pattern, it's still in the middle of their school year, and they feel like we wouldn't have been feeding them weekends anyway.
Y'all don't send any food home to kids, for your kids?
There is a backpack program, but it's not through the school.
Okay.
So, no, we just do breakfast, lunch, and dinner during a regular school year, and then
On the weekdays?
right, and then on the weekends somebody else puts home backpacks.
It's not like there's a program that they will stop. Do you know if the other group would be still interested in doing backpack meals for them on the weekends?
As far as I know, they're still doing it. Somebody brought backpacks up to the elementary last weekend or the weekend before, and they handed out backpacks with canned goods in it that Friday. So somebody is still doing
Barrett,
Go ahead, Marianne.
Barrett, how long will that grant take to find out?
We don't have any idea. Yeah, it's just, it's called Feed the Hungry or Feed the Children grant, or No Child Hungry. And it's a $50,000 grant is the max you could get, but it doesn't say how many they'll be giving out. So we just filled out one based on what our projected numbers may be, and did about 35,000. I filled out the application, they called and asked questions, and now we're just waiting to see. They have a board, many different donors. Some of them get together and decide, yeah, we like this, we'll go together and pull money for that. So it's kind of a bunch of different people putting in money to come up with this grant.
One thing, couple of things that we've noticed too is that, like when First Baptist first started to try to help deliver meals to kids that couldn't get to the school to pick up the meals, they originally wanted to go to Walmart and H-E-B and just try to put together meals themselves. But what H-E-B and Walmart told them was, we're not going to let individuals buy large quantities, even though we get it's a good cause, because of the shortage and things that kind of torpedoed their efforts to do that. Another thing we considered was, well, could the Boys and Girls Club pick up the slack on the weekends? But I think what Gail said was they're under the same parameters we are, as far as they wouldn't get reimbursed for the weekend meals either, I think. Is that what you said, Gail?
That's my understanding with the dinner program, yes.
Look, we weren't feeding them. I can go along with whatever. I just don't want babies to go hungry.
My question would be, had we, from the get-go, if you would have known that this program was gonna cost the district $40,000, we would have never embarked on it. Would that be a correct statement?
Well, yeah, I mean, if it was gonna, the understanding we were under from the U.S., Texas was under the wrong understanding from the U.S. government. They were under the impression that it was gonna be covered. And so, if it had been cheaper, we might have gone down that pathway, but if it's $40,000 a month, I think it's too much for us to absorb. I'm kind of like, the school district is like a lot of other entities. We get a little bit fearful of the future, and you know, if we start embarking down a lot of different expenses we weren't expecting, it could be, could come back on us.
Well, that plus, you don't know what's gonna happen down the road with this coronavirus deal. How many businesses are we gonna lose? How many people are gonna lose their job? What is our future looking like as far as collecting tax revenue and stuff like that in the year or years to come?
Right.
You know, and if it lasts a long time, there's a good chance that USDA may come back and go, okay, we're going to expand that. To answer your question earlier, we weren't anticipating doing weekend meals until we were told it was a possibility. And then we wanted to do it because it would be a great help.
Oh, absolutely.
Kids. If that hadn't been presented to us, we would have probably said no weekends. But once it was presented, it was an obvious yes for us, because we were under the impression it would be covered.
Okay, question. Can you hear me?
Yes, Dad. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the end of the day or end of the week, Gail, do you have food left or is it all given out?
My managers do a really good job of planning and then also fixing things that can be brought back. So they've gotten really good with the numbers, so we don't have hardly anything left over at the end of the day.
I was just wondering if there was, much left over, that would be a good thing to do with it, would be the weekends for the ones that, I don't know how you determine who would get it, but.
Right.
If we weren't
We don't have any leftovers, because that's just an added cost to the program, and make sure we're not wasting anything.
Okay. Well, if we weren't feeding them before, then they're not expecting it.
We do have the Gatesville food pantry up here, they provide a lot of food, so there is, somehow.
And like I said,
What you're saying.
long USDA may come back and revisit it.
Well, I guess maybe the grant will be issued by the time May comes along. If we're still not able to go to school, we could revisit it.
So you're saying we would discontinue them unless we get the grant, and then we would continue them?
And I'm figuring that's what,
Right.
based on what I'm hearing, we don't want to do the program unless we get some funding for the program, right?
Yes, I think that the way it stands right now, a couple of good things could happen. One, the USDA may swoop in and say, okay, things have gotten so bad that we're going to go ahead and reimburse you for weekend meals also. Or we might get the grant for the $35,000, which would get us through basically almost through April. So it's kind of a waiting game right now. I think the main thing is that parents and families here in Gatesville need to really take advantage of the food that's being offered Monday through Friday. You know, if you were kind of a little bit nonchalant about getting it on Monday through Friday, but maybe you make sure you got it for the weekend, now we need to give a heads up that, hey, it's going to not be around this weekend possibly, so you better take advantage of what we're offering Monday through Friday. And the good thing is we're still probably offering more food than a lot of districts because we were very aggressive from the get-go as far as not just breakfast and lunch, but breakfast, lunch, and evening. And so,
well, I think we're still making a good effort, so. I think it's.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Charles.
Charlie, go ahead.
You're talking 3 meals for the weekend, for Saturday and Sunday.
6 meals.
Well, 6 meals.
Right.
What if you cut it to 1 meal each day? I mean, that would have to reduce your expenses, but you still get the kids something to eat on the weekend.
Yeah. We could work any combination that we thought maybe was financially feasible. Gail, how much would that be? I guess that would be cutting the cost by.
It would be depend on the meal you're going to serve. Breakfast is not because breakfast isn't as expensive to.
Right.
Pay or traditional.
What about lunch?
Reimbursement for breakfast is $2.20, and reimbursement for lunch and dinner is both $3.50. And then what you pay Sodexo. So your biggest out-of-pocket right up front is what you pay Sodexo. And it's $1.97 a meal. Then your reimbursement is just money lost coming in from the state.
Can I make a suggestion?
Go ahead, Shane.
Go ahead, Shane.
I've been passing those meals out, and on Fridays, and typically when somebody comes through the line, you're giving them 9 meals, so they're getting 3 for Friday, 3 for Saturday, 3 for Sunday. Do we just ask, please just let us know if you are in real need to get a meal, as opposed to just giving everybody a weekend meal? Because right now, every person that comes through the line gets a weekend meal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I think that's going to be difficult then for them to prepare.
Yeah.
That's going to put a burden on them trying to guess on the number of meals. I think most everybody would probably still take them. Do you want to just put it on hold for 30 days and we'll revisit it on the April meeting?
What is the cutoff on the federal money?
It was passed today.
I'm sorry. End of April?
The end of March, they quit paying for the weekend, or we're paid up through 29th of March, right, Barry?
Right, that's correct.
Okay. So it starts now.
Yeah.
I think we should do it for 1 week and just make them aware after that, so that, I don't know, y'all tell me, and I can agree to most of
Well,
it. Do you think give them make them aware that this will be the last weekend that we'll be able to feed on the weekend, so that we just don't cold turkey them?
Do we need a motion?
Well, it's Monday.
Yeah, eventually we will need a motion, but that, to answer your question, that'd be about $10,000 to do 1 weekend. About $10,000, I think. Isn't that right, Daryl? Yeah, Daryl and I did some numbers, and it was around $10,000 per weekend, so $40,000 a month.
But that would be for 3 meals, right?
Correct.
If you just want to give them something to eat, get them through it, 1 meal would maybe 10,000 divided by 3, roughly.
Probably so, Charles.
The meal cost is the same, roughly $2 a meal that we pay Sodexo.
Daryl, what would
But if
you,
we just did two for the weekend, one each day.
Would be a third of the cost,
Yeah,
Yeah,
$3,000.
3,000 a weekend.
but I can tell you, not having spring sports, we've already saved that much.
so do y'all want to, if you would like, do you want me to make a recommendation then that we just feed one meal on Saturday and one meal on Sunday with an anticipated cost of probably around $3,000 for this coming weekend? Now, do you want us to keep doing it every weekend, or after this weekend then say, okay, we want to give you a heads up, but after this, you've got to make your own accommodations for weekend meals?
Hmm. Oh, wow.
They're struggling.
Yeah.
The same people come through at lunch and at supper, or these, I mean, I would think it's different people. Are they saying, is it generally the same people that come for every meal?
Gail, can you answer that for Cheyenne? Is it basically the same people every time they go through the line?
I would say it is pretty consistent, the same people.
So, I mean, I really think Charles's idea is great if you just take one of those meals, explain to them. The reason is that it's the same people, because you don't want, you know, somebody's getting off work and they can only come in the afternoon. You know, you hate to miss them, but if you could explain to them that we're taking some of that money so that we can feed them over the weekend, that would be a way of just kind of juggling it so that we can have our cake and eat it too. If we feel like they really need their meals on the weekend.
And if we did that, and it was $3,000 a weekend, then that 35,000, hopefully that we get, would pay for it.
Just don't stand and ask questions, but I gotta answer. Hey,
Don't count my chickens, okay.
there you go. Bad question, but I have to ask you. I'm assuming that the way this works, they're giving them out at primary, elementary, and intermediate?
No, just primary and elementary.
Primary, okay. Are the people going through and picking up just allowed to get at one location, or is there any chance they're hitting both locations?
It's quite possible that some may be double dipping, because we are going under an honor system, we're not taking names.
Yeah.
And I tell you another thing that's happening, we have a lot of people that have come in to stay with family, because wherever they were, might have had higher cases, and they were looking for a safe place. So now they're staying with relatives. They're kind of grouping together. So, we're not just feeding our kids. We have some families who have had other family members come stay with them, and now they have kids as well. Because we wanted to do an open site which allowed us to feed kids that way, versus a closed site that said we would only feed our students.
We do that in the summer with our summer feeding. They don't have to be in school here, right?
Like,
Yes.
when it all boils right down to it, David's question is, how are people abusing
Anybody get
the
that?
free meals, and how much so? Do you
It's a
think?
very
So
real
it's the same thing.
Because we don't take names and stuff, we don't really know. Now, most of even the volunteers on the porch usually stay at one campus or the other. I think Shane has gone back and forth between campuses, but I don't know if he's seen anything like that.
But there's nothing to keep somebody from driving through elementary and then just going right over to primary and driving right over.
That
They
is
don't
correct.
have it, because what happens is they might come at breakfast, and you might give them breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then they might come again at lunch, and they might get lunch and dinner, and then they might come again at dinner and get dinner, and you got different people working. You might have a group of people working morning, you might have a different group working lunch, you might have a different group working dinner, so it's just hard to say.
You know, if we knew we were gonna do this long term, we would potentially come up with some identification that could be scanned and just keep up with it that way. I don't know if that's, you know, who knows how long we're gonna do this.
It's hard to say. I mean, there are days where the lines are really long, and there are days where it's not. We've started a spreadsheet where we've got volunteers coming in every day now, so the lines are moving much faster. But sometimes it may be backed up, and sometimes it may be a car or two at a time.
Because I have no idea how this is working, but when a car pulls up, do they request a certain number of meals, or how are y'all doing it?
Yes, sir. They tell us how many kids they have, and the kids do not have to be in the car with them to get that meal. We're going off the honor system that they need a meal for the kid.
Gail, this has kind of become your passion. What are your thoughts? If it's okay to ask that, I would like to know what you think.
Me, I think there's probably some people who are using it, but I think if they are, they're probably really needing it. I think there's quite a few families that have had to take in relatives out of other areas, either because where they were living wasn't safe, or because their parents still needed to work, and they just didn't have any other place to take the kids. You see a lot of grandparents with their kids.
What about the weekend, though?
In the weekend, I don't see anybody, but sometimes, not every time, the few times I work the porch, when you start handing them the weekend package, they're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. Some of them are very grateful. We have a lot of grateful, I would say probably 99% of them are thank you very much, thank you for helping us. I don't know that anyone's gotten anything like, why don't we have.
And that's worth it.
Most of them
That's
are
worth it.
grateful.
99% of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't we, because we're beating this horse to death, why don't we, since we've been feeding them in March, do it one more weekend? Can you not put a note on something that says this will be the last weekend that we will be able to feed on the weekends?
Well, we can print
I
out
kind of think that,
places if that's whatever you decide.
I think you should do like Charlie is.
I kind of like Dave.
I really like Charlie's idea.
What'd you say, David?
I think Charlie has a good suggestion in cutting back on the number of meals for the weekend. People.
I do too. I think we ought to start that. I agree.
A little bit here. We want to help all we can, I know.
So,
I think Charlie's idea is really workable. Don't you, Gail?
Yes.
It's very savable too, in the cost.
Yeah, it is, and we're still not forgetting about, or we're still doing our part in helping. It's cutting back to 3,000, but this is a crazy time.
Okay. Well, then I'll make I like those ideas. Tell you what, I'll make a recommendation then that we continue offering weekend meals, but at a reduced number of meals, so that a child would get 1 sack for Saturday and 1 sack lunch for Sunday. So if I'm a parent of 1 child and I come up there Friday, and after I get my Friday food, I'd also get 1 bag for Saturday and 1 for Sunday. Is that what y'all are proposing? Am I kind of mimicking that correctly?
That'll work.
Yes.
Lunch
Okay.
only?
our cost per month on that would be approximately, what, did we already talk about that?
Probably about, what would you say, Daryl, about 10,000?
Depends on how many weeks.
Yeah.
Are you talking about this one meal this coming weekend?
So it'd be about 20 over the 2 months.
So if on Friday we get,
I would say 3,000, 3,500 a week to offer 2 meals on the weekend.
Okay.
Okay.
Could we, try this for April until we have our next board meeting, that's 3 weekends,
Uh-huh.
and revisit it then?
Sure.
Yes.
It's a good idea.
Okay. So I'm going to make a recommendation then that we continue weekend meals at the rate of 1 lunch bag for Saturday and 1 lunch bag for Sunday, and then we will reevaluate it at the next board meeting.
Do we need to notify these folks that are picking up the meals that the potential for the weekend is for the weekend meals to cease is possibly coming?
I think if we make posters and hung them at each campus, the ones that come through and take advantage of it would see the poster. And, we just need
That's
to.
good, so they'll be able to plan.
Okay.
So, Barrett, your recommendation on the, on our action page includes something else you want to vote on this first one and then talk about your second?
Yeah, so y'all want to go ahead and vote on the first one. So just to reiterate,
Okay.
my recommendation is that we continue the weekend meals
Okay.
at a reduced rate of one lunch bag per Saturday, one Sunday per student. And then we'll revisit it at April with a
Okay.
summary of what the cost was and if we want to continue it through May, if we're still closed.
Do you need a motion?
I need a motion.
You got it. I'll make that motion.
Is there a motion for
David,
that?
I'll second it.
David made the motion.
David made the motion
And-
and Rob seconded. Is that good, Rob?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Motion, got everybody?
Yep.
Motion carries. Thanks, Charlie, for a good idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hope it works out well.
Second part?
Yes, another thing that was kind of, and Marcia may expand on this some too, but a second recommendation would be, well, let me give you the background. So some of our paraprofessional and auxiliary employees are considered non-exempt, which means that they are subject to overtime if they work more than 40 hours. But anyway, those types of employees, some of them have been at home. Some of them are considered essential and have to come up here and work. So for the ones that have to come up here and work, the incentive for them would be that we'll track the time and we would basically allow them to accumulate comp time. So it wouldn't be any extra money, but it would be a kind of a token of gratitude that, hey, we understand that you could have sat at home, but because you were essential, you had to come up here and work. So everybody's getting paid, but on top of that, you earn some comp time. And so if I'm a custodian and I work up here 10 hours, I get paid for my 10 hours of work, but I'd also get 5 hours of comp time that I could use later on to comp out of some work later on. And so we felt like that was something to equalize the two different scenarios where you have some folks that are working and some that aren't. And so what discussion do y'all have on that?
I think,
Go ahead.
Barrett, I think that's a good idea. I noticed that when I drive by, there's always grounds people out there working, and they could have just been sitting at home.
Right.
But they're up there working, same as the janitors, and it's just a nice incentive for them.
Right. Any others?
Now, who all would this apply to?
Anybody else?
It would be any basically non-salaried people that are subject to overtime, so custodians, cafeteria folks, people like that.
Secretaries.
Right. So again, they're not earning extra money, but they're earning some comp time as a show of gratitude that, hey, you came up here and worked when you could have sat at home.
You say it's going to be an expense per se, but when they take that comp time and you have to replace them with somebody, that's where the expense comes in?
Well, they wouldn't really be, I don't know if they would have to be replaced.
That was my question, if it was gonna cause a burden when they all decided to take their comp time.
And I guess we could,
We could limit when they took it.
Yes. Do a system where they have to put in for it, where not everybody gets on the same time.
Right.
Well, and something else, I mean, I'm always a negative guy, but I think these people are tickled to death that they have a place that they're able to work. Are they expecting to be compensated at time and a half? I mean, you know, where I work, we're essential personnel, and they're dead gum glad we're essential personnel. We got trucks that go to Waco, and police pull them over, don't know what they're doing. Every one of them have a letter from the mayor of Waco saying that all construction is exempt from the curfew. But we've had that happen more than once. And, I mean, I feel for the folks, but really and truly, you know, are they doing more than they would do in a normal school year? Somebody say something.
A lot of times when a secretary takes comp time, he or she comes back and has to do the work that they didn't do then. So it's not like anybody.
Comp time be, how will you earn it? What's the rate?
Well, like we said, it would be, if you work.
It's hour for hour unless it's over 40 hours.
And is that a rate? I mean, you have to do it that way?
No. So if they come work 40 hours, they're gonna get 20 hours of comp time? I don't know.
That's a lot.
Yeah. To do their job.
Yeah. Well, what we could do is we could just table it, and if we feel like it's getting, if people are being asked to do too much, we might have you revisit it. You want us to do that?
I think that would be a good idea. We'll
Mark,
see how it
what's your
works. Well,
opinion?
we're a few weeks deep in this deal.
Right. I'll do some.
Mark,
I can see where if you had a person that was working maintenance and this was their scheduled week off, that's a lot of comp time to build up. That asking someone to come, you know, you would like to compensate them in some way, but we realize that that's also could be something that could get out of control easily as well.
So I think what we'll do is we'll watch the people who are coming up here and having to work and just see if we feel like that it's becoming something where we really do need to do something above and beyond what they normally get as far as comp time or something, and we'll revisit it with you if we feel like the need is there.
Who are we paying up there? Like all the folks that are working, passing the food stuff out, are they up there on a voluntary basis, or are they people that are getting paid to stay home that are volunteering to come up there, or who?
It's a little bit of both. So the vast majority of people are volunteers. Now, some of those volunteers are people that are just community members, like policemen and things of that nature, but then there are other volunteers.
So a DPS trooper up there that's
right,
passing out food, rock stars.
Yeah, and then sometimes the volunteers are teachers or different staff members here in the district. The ones who are truly kind of on the clock as far as being paid for the work are the cafeteria managers who are preparing the food. They're the ones that are truly school nutrition staff up there. Is that, Gail, would you characterize that as being accurate?
Yes, I have, of course, most of my managers are there every day. They get here early, they stay late, they want to make sure it's going out properly and the kids are all getting what they need in their bags. And then I have some that are rotating. They have kids at home and they're working around someone watching their kid, but they want to come a couple of hours during the week. But I have a core group that have been here from the beginning and have no intentions of not being here.
Say you're gonna create a problem, you give them 20 hours of comp time, and when school starts back up, I mean, there's only a limited, they have to take it during the school year. I think it's gonna create a problem. Well, let's just Barrett, let's just go with your idea of tabling it and you looking and kind of finding out what's what.
Okay. Now that sounds good to
I'm
me.
gonna put some numbers at the next meeting that we can look at as to who is affected and what, you know, what amount more than their normal duty hours are the folks working, And certainly if they're up there working, they used to work 8 hours a day and now they're working 10 or 12, you bet, let's compensate with some, but let's have some numbers so we know what we're talking about.
They clock in, do they clock in, or are they tracking their hours in any way?
Yes, my staff is,
Are they hourly employees?
yes.
Yes.
So once they get past 40, they're compensated at time and a half.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's what we needed to know.
Okay, we'll just table that.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
All right.
So,
They want a motion and a
Now we're
second to
moving
table
on
it. Can you
to,
do that? No.
the, wage payments.
This kind of piggybacks off of that same thing, and all of this comes as a result of the way our policy was written, DEA local. And I had, I think there is a copy of that for y'all. But what we were talking about is some districts' policies have premium payments. They already had it in local policy. We were lucky that we did not have premium payments in our policy that said if you came into work, you automatically got the time and a half payment. So we were very lucky that our policy was very general. But one of the things that we do have to do is come up with a resolution that y'all will give permission for employees to get wage payments during an emergency school closing. And this has to be done by a board resolution. Typically, a person that's on contract, which is we call an exempt person, because they're on contract and there's no, we don't have intentions of working those days because of their contract. That's an automatic that they typically will get paid. There's no choice there. And most districts are also paying their non-exempt people. And what you have to do is determine that this is, we want to make sure that we avoid an improper use of public funds. And this resolution states that the expenditures to pay all of these employees serves a public purpose, retains sufficient control over the expenditure to ensure that the public purpose is accomplished, and that the district receives a return benefit. And all of these people have been told not to work, but boards have concluded that paying employees for hours not worked increases morale and reduces employee turnover. In the situation where the district faces risk of a health epidemic, district may also authorize payment to an employee staying home from work as a precautionary measure through board action. And TASB came up with this resolution that you have, and I think Barrett is it. The next item maybe, that is the LEA local. These are questions from TASB about payment during epidemic.
129.
And then all of these were samples. Keep going, Barrett. There we go. This is the resolution that they had that I went through and put the information in where the board would pass a resolution or adopt a resolution so that employees could get paid during an emergency closing. This is a very rare occurrence. I know there may be a few of you that have been around the district as long as I have. Never have we had anything like this before. I didn't even realize there was such a thing like this that existed, but this resolution must be passed in order for payment to go when people are not working. This paycheck that we will get paid in April, that all has been, most of it has been work that's already done, but from that point forward, we would need you to pass this resolution.
Which employees in particular are we talking about? Your hourly people are getting paid as they work. Is Is this the part of substitute teachers, or what are we talking about?
This is a resolution to do that, to pay, it includes contractual and non-contractual, salaried and non-salaried. So it's for, you're approving a resolution to continue payments for all of the employees.
It's like bus drivers, so you
All
don't,
full-time employees.
Yes. All full-time employees.
well, it might not be a full-time employee, because they're just talking about bus drivers.
Yes. Yes, all employees that, are considered regular employees that, are eligible for benefits and fall under FMLA.
Does the district still have a policy of donating one day of your sick leave into a bank and employees can pull from that?
Oh,
Yes, we have the catastrophic leave bank.
this isn't that, this is just like, this is like a teacher's not able to come teach, they're coming up here some or getting lessons, but instead of having them run out of leave and then dock their pay, we're gonna continue to pay them.
But on the catastrophic leave, does that apply to that?
No,
Well, this is for emergency school
This,
closings.
this first resolution is separate, and it is for us to continue paying employees even though school is closed.
Oh, okay.
And so the board has to adopt this resolution for us to do it for everyone.
So that's your recommendation.
My recommendation is to adopt the resolution of the board regarding wage payments during emergency school closings.
I make the motion to adopt the resolution as recommended.
I'll second.
Okay, Brenda, and was that David?
Yes.
Okay. It's been, moved and seconded for this resolution. Any more discussion? Everybody in favor, raise your hand or just say something.
Yes,
Let me
yes,
see.
Amy, I'm waving mine.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Rob, did you say yes?
Good.
Okay. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Marcia. And you also have the next resolution.
The next resolution is one that's kind of changed in the last few days since we've gotten this together. The federal government has come up with an emergency leave for districts that during an epidemic that people can take off as a result of the epidemic. Now, if you're a regular business, you can get tax credits for doing this, but if you're a school, allowing people to take off when they have, like they may have contracted the disease or that's the epidemic, that would still be at the district's expense under the federal guidelines. So we had first put in this resolution that the board, that we were gonna ask to see if you would extend sick leave during an epidemic for someone that was out of leave for up to 2 weeks. Now, the federal government has come and since passed something that says we will do this anyway, so I don't know that this is a necessity that we have to do at this time. Is that what you understand, Barrett?
Yes, Marcia, when we looked at that paperwork you showed me, the way it reads, the federal government kind of beat us to the punch, and so they recognize that, you know, if you're just about out of leave and then you contract the coronavirus and have to be out for a couple of weeks, that you shouldn't go and be financially upended because of that. So they basically made the decision for us. So I think we can probably just table this because they've done it. They've basically done it.
Okay, good deal.
Okay, we don't have to vote on it?
No.
It's gonna be in there anyway. Okay.
Yes. We're gonna have to put
All right, so we'll go,
That's
we'll
right.
go to, C.
The next item is something that we've talked about.
We're going to the resolution for substitutes.
Yes.
Resolution regarding wage payments during emergency school closing for regular substitutes. This is something that we came up with to provide a discussion point for the board. We have had some calls from substitutes asking as if they are gonna get paid. Typically, I think our first response was, no, you're not getting paid, you are a sub. But I think, Dr. Pollard saw that Belton was paying for, anyone that had a scheduled job, during the closure. And then we put something out on the, superintendent's secretary's questionnaire, and one school said that they were paying what they termed regular substitutes, going to go ahead and pay them the monthly wages if they were a regular substitute. And they deemed a regular substitute was a substitute who subbed 10 or more days in the previous 4 weeks. So I looked at this, and we had about $27,000 worth of subs that would fall under if we chose to do that. It's not anything that we have in policy, or we have just been toying back and forth with this. What is the best thing? And is this something that we should do to offer subs so that we will retain these hardworking subs in our sub pool? And we wanted your input on this information.
Is it anybody that was doing a long-term sub job, or is it just random, like one teacher?
Some of them are long-term, and then there are some that just sub every day. Like we have some that out of the last 20 days have subbed 18. So it's, and that would also.
At least 10 days.
At least 10 days, which would be half or more of the last 4 weeks. And that would be something that, I think last month we had a big month, and our sub pay was $37,000, and this group was about $25,000 of that. People that just work almost daily as a sub. They're the subs that we depend on. And then again, you look, and a sub is a sub because they choose to be. So it's kind of a battle within your mind, what is right, but I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just me closing the door on it without any discussion.
This is
There's two really good arguments on here. There's the human side of it, which would, we would all like to see everybody get paid. And then there's the business side of it, to where when it boils right down to it, these are on-demand employees, and there is no demand at this moment. And if you've got long-term subs that are scheduled to work the rest of the year for a particular job, that may be a little bit different. But a day-to-day sub, I told Barrett earlier, I said, I'm really torn on that.
Yeah, because it's a hard thing.
Everybody needs all the help we can get right now.
Yeah.
Correct, and there is an advantage to hiring and getting an A job, because that makes you a permanent position.
Yes.
So that you attain some independence by being a sub, but at the same time, I know that we depend on these subs that come day in, day out.
We don't want to dry up our sub pool.
They don't get paid in the summer because they're not subbing.
Right.
And it is what it is. It is, I don't remember exactly how Rob worded it. That's exactly the way I feel. People be mad at me over it, that's fine. But we're on the board to make these decisions, and it's about the money of our school. We could spend ourselves into a big hole.
Right, and this would be a recurring cost if we chose to do that if we were out for the next 2 months.
I say only for the ones that were locked in for a long-term class, finishing out the year, or those I would be, because they have, I guess you'd say they had set their life up to finish out this teacher's year, and I'd be okay with them, but just random subs, no.
Okay.
But, so you're saying that the 10 days in the previous 4 weeks, isn't that what we're looking at?
Are you asking me?
Well, the way the resolution is worded,
Yeah.
sounds like it's 10 days over the last 8 weeks.
No,
Page
One of the two.
one of the two.
It doesn't say that.
Yes, it does, right there on the, third sentence from the end. Must have worked
That's
at
the
least,
resolution, page 133.
4 week period.
it says at least 10 days in one of the, oh,
It's on page 133.
It does say previous 2 4 week periods, maybe we can adjust that.
oh, it does say over 10 days in the previous 2 4 week periods.
In each of the two. And that's not something that I think,
Oh, I know.
Okay.
discussion was whether we even wanted to do this regular resolution or not.
How many,
Or
well, I see what I'm asking questions that are not pertinent to this resolution. How many substitutes do we have that are deemed long-term subs right now?
we have,
They draw a different rate of pay than a regular sub, is that correct? A long-term sub?
right, and a lot of our subs are just ending up, they might be finishing up a long-term sub job, but I don't know that we have very few that will be subbing for the end of the year.
No, let's just don't do it.
What's our budget per month for subs?
And I know there's an argument on both sides, but I mean, those people are full-time employees in essence. I mean, they have committed the rest of the school year to be employed by the school district on a daily basis. But the other folks are flipping the coin. If they need me, I'll go, and if they don't, and they've been fortunate that they worked a whole lot, and that's really good. But, it's like, I mean, we start paying big money here, and big money there, and big money there, and pretty soon we're gonna be after Barrett for, hey, where'd all the money go?
That was a question with us, with Barrett, and I said, should we say we want to do the resolution, and we decided to go ahead and make out the resolution like we were gonna pass it, but to bring it up for discussion, because it is something that deserves a lot of, conversation about.
Let me ask this, and this is gonna be kinda hard to get across where it sounds correct. Let's say, for instance, we have a person that's doing a long-term sub. That teacher that is out of her class for, say 3 months because of a pregnancy?
Yeah.
Okay, so she runs into a time period when she is not getting paid, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So how is she affected now with this virus thing and teachers being paid that aren't having to work? How is that affecting her? Does that make sense?
They're still working.
Yeah,
Still working.
they were off of work and they had run out of days and were not getting paid. So are they getting paid now, or are they still out of work? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that is dependent upon each individual, but
Right.
you can adopt, and one came out this week, even policies about having people during this time of non-work still enter absences when they can't work. And we have not done that yet, but as of the way it stands now, that person that would be on leave would get paid as well. Do you agree with that, Barrett?
Yes, and I would just tell the group that every one of the points you guys have made, we made internally, kind of batting it back and forth between our group, pros and cons of doing it, and it's kind of like the serving food on the weekends for the kids, or accumulating the comp time for the paraprofessionals. It's kind of sometimes you don't know exactly what's best. What I might, after listening to all of you guys, what I might recommend is that we table the resolution, but maybe the recommendation would be to pay the handful of subs that had a long-term, like for maternity leave, already on the books, that we would pay that handful of people and leave it at that for right now. Does that sound?
Let me point out one thing with that though. That long-term sub, her money, if I'm not mistaken, the money to compensate and pay her comes from the fact that we're not paying that teacher. Is that correct?
sub pay is made up pretty quick.
But now they're drawing their pay anyway.
The teachers getting paid, and we're having to pay the sub as well.
That's what I'm saying. I just want to throw that out for you to think about.
So do you want to go back then, David, on what you said earlier, as far as paying the ones that were going to be on maternity leave?
I guess I have to, because after sitting here thinking about that, then that throws a kink in it. Because that's where a lot of our money comes from, to afford to pay this long-term sub more money. Correct me when I'm wrong, I don't care.
Okay.
But sooner or later, this gold pot's gonna run dry.
Well, is it kind of like the comp time for the,
The resolution just refers to those.
go ahead, Mary Ann.
No, you go ahead, Barrett,
Well, I was just going to say, it's kind of like the comp time for the paraprofessionals. Is it something that you'd like for us maybe to table tonight? And let's see, the future is so unclear, and people's financial situations, and we'll just, if we feel like it's something that's going to deplete our sub pool and leave us in dire straits, we may revisit it and at a later time. Does that sound reasonable to everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, it does. Is it possible to come up with some figures as to how many subs we have a day, and what kind of the amount of money? Well, I don't have it in there, but I mean, it just says on the, it says 25,000 plus. Is that per month, or is that total, or?
Last month, I know, was a heavy month, and we used $37,000. We had a high sub month. Now, also, these subs will be eligible for unemployment, which we kind of wind up paying one way or the other anyway. So,
employees eligible for unemployment?
How are they eligible for unemployment? They're part-time.
I think,
Unless the school system's different, I don't believe a part-time employee is not eligible for unemployment.
Supposedly in the stimulus package, they're gonna fund the unemployment that's gonna be paid out, the federal government's picking that up.
So is the employer not gonna be taxed on it, Brenda?
The way I understood the stimulus package, the part that I read and then listening to it on TV, they said the unemployment where they're gonna pay people for missing work during this pandemic is gonna be funded by the government.
Okay.
So it looks like we do need to wait on this, Barrett.
Yes, we'll just
See what,
table
how
it.
things go.
It's another one of those things that there's so many weird issues that we've never encountered before because of this. We want to mainly tonight keep you in the loop of what we're struggling with, and so we sure don't mind tabling these types of things for later.
and we know that these resolutions, or even the one we paid for all, that y'all just passed for all employees, in order for us to get FEMA funded for some of those, we had to have that passed before the epidemic. So that has not happened. So we can't get any FEMA funding for it, and we realize that. But we are certainly glad that y'all passed the first resolution allowing all FMLA eligible employees to get paid.
Okay.
That's the right thing to do.
Sure.
So we're gonna table that. Is anybody opposed to tabling this? Or opposed to tabling it? Okay. All right, we'll go on to, Shane with your instructional materials. Mr. Webb?
Sorry, I needed to unmute. All right, I know it's kind of hard to talk about some of these other things after some of the things that we just discussed. It's just, I guess, it's times we're in, and things are just, it's really weird right now, I guess, but, you know, we got to clear in on some business to kind of move on with the rest of our routines, but this next thing is about from the State Board of Education that districts have to certify that the instructional materials allotment is used only for expenses allowed by the Texas Education Code. for the current school year, and the district has instructional materials that cover all elements of the TEKS that's required, of the required curriculum under Texas Education Code for each subject and grade level besides, other than physical education. And that the district will provide to the State Board of Education the title, publication, information for any instructional materials requisitioned or purchased by the district with the district's IMA funds. And so this is just something that we have to do every year to just certify that the materials that we use that we purchase through IMA and those things, and that we have to submit this to TEA. And so I'm just recommending that the superintendent, the local board president, the board secretary certify and sign the instructional materials allotment and TEKS certification form so that it may be submitted to TEA.
I make that motion.
I second it.
Recommendation, the motion has been made by Brenda and seconded by Linda. Any more discussion? All those in favor, raise
Yes.
your hand or say yes.
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 Thank you, guys.
That's not 2 votes, that's 1 vote.
Okay, motion carries. Motion carries. All right, Mr. Webb.
Okay, now the next one is the 9 through 12 ELAR adoption, the English language arts. So this is for all 9 through 12 English classes. And the proclamation 2020 calls for instructional materials for English language arts 9 through 12. And so this is for new instructional materials for all English classes. And so started out a process with the English department beginning in January, where we started reviewing presentations from several different vendors. And I've listed each vendor there that we saw a presentation from, and we had a rubric that we completed, or that the department completed, to see which instructional materials that they liked best. And so the ones that we reviewed, some of the major ones, McGraw-Hill, Houghton Mifflin, Pearson, and then just some other ones, Newsella, and Perfection Learning. And so you can kind of see those numbers that I have beside them, was the average score ratings from each teacher. The total score, you can get a total of 124 points, but it was just several different factors that we looked at. And, see, McGraw-Hill was 95.5, Mifflin Harcourt was 120 rating, Pearson, and then Newsella and Perfection Learning. And so after a review from teachers and administrators, Gatesville ISD would like to adopt the following resources for 9 through 12 ELAR. And so the committee's recommendation is to adopt the Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. It's called Into Literature 9 through 12. And I've got the proposal in there. Right now, that proposal is for approximately $160,000. I am trying to negotiate better pricing, but the proposal has just been released, and so they have not allowed any negotiation there. But I will try to negotiate that price to a lower price. And that's why I have the hope the pricing will be reduced once it's released, because they have not released their official pricing. This is just based on pricing that they believe will happen. And so this is an 8-year adoption, and so that's what the price is, about $160,000. Now, in order to adopt any of these resources, no matter which vendor we get them from, online access is a critical part. Many of the components are blended, where it's online components with a reproducible. There's several different options you can go with. You can go with a blended option, which gives you reproducibles and online access. You can go with a textbook for every kid, or you can go with like a class set of textbooks. After review, we would like to have all the online resources available to use, along with what's called a reproducible textbook, where they send you a new, like a workbook type every year. That way, if there's any type of errors or anything like that, those things get corrected. but also we're able to push out some digital learning as well, which would be a great opportunity for us right now, but this would be going into next year. In order to offer that blended learning piece, we do need additional technology devices in those English classrooms. So right now, the English department has 8 teachers in the department, and they have, right now, there are 2 Chrome carts with Chromebooks in the English department. And so to do this, we would need to purchase an additional 6 Chrome carts. I think I've got about 27 per class in there. And so that price comes out to a total of about close to $50,000. And so that brings the total adoption price for 9 through 12 ELAR to around $210,000. And this would all be purchased through our instructional materials allotment that we get from the state every 2 years. Does anybody have any questions before I go any further?
There are annual updates to this thing, is that correct?
Yes, sir. The online piece is updated constantly. It'll come with the Houghton Mifflin Hardcourt comes with online literature books that you can read. So not just a hard print, but you can have it online where you can read off devices. And they're adding new books all the time. And so it would keep things more updated. It would allow kids to do, it's integrated with Google Classroom, where teachers can push out work through Google Classroom. And it just has a lot of components to it that they really enjoy. And really, all of them are pretty similar. McGraw-Hill, Houghton Mifflin, Harcourt, Pearson, they're all have a very similar product. They just tend to like the Houghton Mifflin piece more.
So,
excuse me.
This program, it says it's an 8-year adoption. Is it, you're gonna be locked in on it for 8 years, or are you gonna come back in 2 years with something later and greater and want another couple $100,000?
This is 8 years. This is an 8-year adoption. And then our last adoption lasted 10 years.
No annual update or no annual license, it gets all up front. Once we buy it, we own it.
Correct. The only recurring cost that would have to happen after 5 years would have to probably be repurchasing new Chromebooks, because they won't last the whole adoption. But that's something we continually to cycle anyways.
Okay.
But
If you say you're getting Chromebooks for the classroom,
This would be for the English department, Mr. Alders.
Right.
Every English teacher, yes, would have a Chrome card in their classroom.
so the next question is, what does this do to your IMA account?
I think we've got roughly around 330 to 340,000, and so this would take up, a good chunk, so about 210 of it. So this would leave us 120,000 going into next year.
Yeah. Do you know what we're adopting next year?
Off the top of my head, I don't have that. I don't think it's a big adoption year.
Okay. You'll be in good shape then.
Yeah, we should be in good shape. I'll double check that. I don't have the adoption cycle in front of me.
Well, don't they add a little bit more money at the beginning of each year? They don't get it full that first year.
I think we have our pot of money now, but come not this August, but the next August, we'll get our next pot of money. So in about another, 15 months, we'll get our next pot of money, which roughly runs about $500,000 to $550,000.
Ought to do well. Buy those Chromebooks.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does anybody else have any questions?
Okay, you want to make your recommendation?
I do. I recommend the GISD Board of Trustees approve the 9 through 12 ELAR adoption and purchase of Houghton Mifflin Hardcourt into literature, and the purchase of the requested Chrome cards to effectively deliver instruction.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion
Linda.
And I second.
Charlie,
Yes.
That's it.
Now, IMA will close down in April, so I will most likely make this order when it opens back up in May.
Correct.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Mr. Webb? Okay. All those in favor, say yes
Yes.
or no? Yes. None opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Thank you guys, I appreciate it.
I knew he was coming there.
Okay, Mr. Harper?
Yes, the next two items are part of our drug deterrent strategies, and one of them is for the canine detection. This is a yearly contract. We work with Interquest Detection Canines, and we also work with our sheriff's department. And the difference is with the Interquest Detection Canines, they can inspect for all kinds of contraband, firearms, ammunition, drugs, and alcohol. The sheriff's department is just narcotics dogs. And so with canine, with the Interquest, we give them a calendar at the beginning of the year, and we get 14 half-day visits, and then they work between the junior high and high school. And they show up on a day that we didn't X out for them, and then the administrator will go around and they'll do their searches. The sheriff's department is a separate issue, and there's no cost. We just have an MOU with them, but it operates the same way. Whenever the handler is available and wants to bring the dog up, they'll come on a day that we've indicated that's okay for them to come and do a search, and then they search, but it's only just for narcotics. And so for this recommendation is to approve the contract with Interquest Detection Canines for next school year. The price went up $10. It's $290 per visit, and we get 14 visits that are half day each in length between the junior high and high school.
I don't know what you would call it,
Okay.
right, or what you would call it, but how many hits have the dogs come up with?
There's more hits. We've had several instances where we found some marijuana, and they've gotten DAP placements, but they've had some hits on spent shells, shotgun shells, a beer bottle cap. There's been some hits other than marijuana going into DAP. The narcotics, I'm not sure what the sheriff's department's dogs have come up with. I need to get with the campuses and find out how many visits they have. We don't have an exact number for the sheriff's department's dog because it's based off of their schedule, whenever they're available. The ones that we're paying for, we're trying to set them to say, okay, give us at least this many visits and on these certain days.
Okay, great. Not for
Okay.
So the recommendation is to continue services with Interquest Detection Canines for the next school year.
I would make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, for the motion, Rob has made the motion, and David seconded, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, my internet's acting nutty. Okay, all those in favor, say yes, or
Yes.
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 yes? Okay, any opposed? Motion carries, thank you, Mr. Harper.
All right.
Go ahead.
Is our substance abuse policy. The first one we had was in effect for 10 years, and now we're reviewing it every year. And normally we do it during the summertime, whenever we can get a committee together. We're doing it a little bit early so that this information can be put into the packets whenever athletes are going to get their physicals and start getting the UIL, so that we're ahead of the game, so that we can start drug testing in August whenever they start back for two-a-days, when band starts coming back. We start testing a little bit earlier. As soon as they start preparing for activities, we're able to start testing. And so we did review this early, and we made a couple of suggestions or recommendations for change from the committee. And so those are listed there in the packet before you. We had to distinguish between the FFA members, we had it in the beginning, FFA competitions. But active members represent us in more than just competitions. They go to meetings, they go to conferences, and so they they represent us in different ways, so we want to make sure that we have that distinction made between just FFA competitions. The other one is to increase the consequences for refusal. A student will refuse to test, and the way it was written last year and the years before was that depending on what level of punishment you were on, if it was your first refusal, then it's a 40% suspension, a second refusal was a year. So we've jumped that up to say that if you refuse, you are automatically suspended from representing the school for 1 year. Now, the caveat to that is that you also fall under the School Community Guidance Center, so that while you're under that year's suspension, you devise a plan for them where they continue to get tested. If they refuse to get tested, even by the Guidance Center, we could either file contempt of court charges or they could just quit altogether. And so we're trying to add a little bit more teeth to the refusal part. We want students to, you know, they sign up for it in the beginning, but then when it comes down to the test, that a lot of times they'll just say, well, I don't want to test. And shockingly enough, quite a few parents will support them on that, and then they just end up quitting. And so we're trying to keep them in close to a program so that we can continue to work with them, get them some help, some support and counseling through the School Community Guidance Center. And so those are the two other changes to the policy, which is attached to this in the book, in the board book. It's highlighted in orange, and the change is like item number 13 and 14 on close to the second to last page. And so the recommendation.
Any questions?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, you go ahead. We'll do that. We'll ask questions in a minute.
Okay, the recommendation is to approve the GISD substance abuse policy as presented with the recommended changes.
Is there a motion? I'll make it, Brenda. Brenda? Is there a second? Rob? Now, are there any questions, any further questions for Mr. Harper? Okay. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand and say yes. 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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Talk through. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Barrett.
Well, this is time for teacher contracts, and so we've got a whole long list of contracts in your packet to approve. And so you've probably gone down that list. It's just a laundry list of staff names there. It gives you the last name, first name, the months of the contract term, whether it's probationary or term contract, 1 year, 2 year, all those different things like we do every year. And so my recommendation would be to approve the list, approve the contracts for the listed personnel as presented, subject to assignment.
Okay, I'll make that motion. Is there a second? I second. Brenda seconded. Any questions?
I have a question. What
It's listed.
the designation between the 1 and 2 year contract? What does it take to get to the point where you get a 2 year contract? As I was reading through there, it seemed to me that we had some folks that have been here a good
5
while,
years
they're still on
with
1 year contracts. Is that something we need to talk about other than here?
No, Rob, it's not anything secretive. It's it could be that sometimes if a person has taught 5 out of the 8 past years in a previous district, and they come here new after that first year, they get a second year, or they get a term right after that first year is done here, because they're already a veteran teacher in the system. Marsha, what would be some other reasons maybe for the discrepancy?
Some of them that may have been here for several years, and I can, without looking at the list, tell you if they had an appraisal that, or some kind of observation that wasn't up to what the administrator thought, they could elect at one point to put them back to a 1 year contract.
Okay.
Any more questions? I have one. All those in favor say yes. Oh, question, okay. Okay, Barrett.
Barrett. Yes.
On this list,
you have, Summer, Megan, and Amanda.
Yes.
Don't we need to pull them out
Yes,
There were two
so
different.
Rob can vote?
that's on the next item.
But they're on this list too.
No, oh, are they?
You're on, page 159.
Yes. Now, I'm actually on 163. And they're on both lists.
I see
Okay,
them on 165, but I don't see, I don't see them.
63 says no action.
161 has,
See what she's saying.
okay, so Linda, let's do it this way. So what you're bringing up is that any board member that's related closely enough to a school member or employee that's due a contract needs to abstain. So on this first list, our recommendation is you approve all of them except the three listed on page
They
1,
should not have been on there.
166, 165, 166. Those three teachers are related too closely to Mr. Irwin, and so he's going to vote in this first group with y'all, and then in the second group it'll be just for those three, and then he will abstain. So our recommendation on that first group is to disregard those three employees.
We already recommended to approve the contracts of that first list. And we had
Okay.
we had a first, we had a motion
We're
and a
good.
second.
It's just, that list is just those three don't need to be on there.
So are those three in the original list? Okay, so we need to back out of that recommendation.
Well, recommend with changes
Two of them are no action
to
and one of
disregard
them
those
is,
three on the first list.
For 2 years.
Okay, so can we revise the recommendation then? So do you see what I'm saying? So basically, in this, let me,
We'll restate the motion.
okay.
We'll restate it.
So basically,
Okay.
this
Go
first
ahead.
long list of teachers and staff members that starts on page 159, we want to exclude those three that are related to Mr. Irwin. So you guys all can vote, including Rob, on this first group, with the exception of those three. And then after we get done voting on that one, we'll just look at those three and Rob will abstain. How about that?
That works for me. But I do have one more question.
Okay.
On the ones, like on page 162 and 163, still have no actions, are they in the middle of a 2-year contract or something, or what is the no action when you get a little further down?
Marcia? Marcia?
Yes, they are in the middle of a 2-year contract.
Yeah, Rob, you're right. If they're in the middle of the 2-year contract,
that's what it is.
Okay, you're in the middle of a 2.
right.
Yes, they are in the
Then
middle of
you don't have to vote on it.
That's it.
Okay,
Okay.
just,
Then that's why they're on that list. You won't have to take them off because they're not an action.
They need to come off.
Well, 2 of them are, but one of them is, so we'll just take all 3 of them.
Yeah, I think to make it more simplistic and everybody,
So, Barrett,
yeah,
I'm gonna make a motion on your recommendation.
go ahead. Okay, so the
So I'm
motion,
gonna make the yeah.
what have you said, Barrett?
yeah, so,
First.
so Mary Ann
Right.
made the motion that out of that whole long laundry list of folks, we're asking you guys to approve the contracts as presented, subject to assignment, except for those three that are related to Mr. Irwin, who we will vote on separately here in a minute.
All right, is there a second?
Yes. Second.
David seconded.
Is that David?
Yep.
Yes, David.
Who's that? Okay. Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, say yes.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
You tell me
Now
your
we'll go to
secretary
the
is
to the other page.
Correct. So these are the
Barry,
three.
you wanna make a motion on that?
Yes, so I would like to recommend approving the contracts for those three listed personnel as presented, subject to assignment. And on this vote, Mr. Irwin is abstaining.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, you heard? Okay, Dave,
Second
Brenda,
by-
you've heard the recommendation, and there's been a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Okay, all those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, any abstention? Okay, Robin abstains, okay. All right, motion carries.
Who made the first?
Another recommendation,
I'm sorry.
Barrett?
David and then Brenda. The last one is for part-time employees' work agreements. So the recommendation is to approve the employment agreements for the listed personnel as presented, subject to assignment. And I believe there's no relation with these folks with the board members, so y'all are all free to vote. So again, the recommendation is to approve employment agreements for the listed personnel as presented, subject to assignment. And these are part-time agreements.
I'll make the motion.
Fincher?
Second.
Cheyenne seconded,
All right.
David makes a motion, is Cheyenne seconded, okay.
correct?
Any questions? All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Now we're going on to future business.
So we have a few items listed there for future business, training events for continuing education. The first one there under A is Senate Bill 1566, evaluating student academic performance training. It requires every current school board member to complete 3 hours of evaluating academic performance every 2 years. Marcy sent you guys an email on February 6th for individual requirements. Experienced board members need to complete this prior to May 21st. You've got a couple of options, looks like TASB online, or you could go to Region 12, or even Hillsborough High School on May 13th. So that's more just kind of an FYI. The second one there is TASB 2020 Spring Workshops. The Tarleton one was canceled, so I wanted to make you aware of that. And then right now, it's still on the books at Region 12 for an event in Waco, May 19th for that training. And then lastly, the 2020 Summer Leadership Institute that we went to in San Antonio last year. Housing opens up Wednesday, April 15th, and housing for Fort Worth opens up on the 16th. Let us know if you plan on attending. I guess we'll also have to kind of play it by ear. I think that the commissioner had said that SLI is still on the trajectory to happen, but with COVID, I mean, you never can tell what might torpedo it later, but you might be thinking about that if you think you'll be able to make it to San Antonio like we did last year. Did y'all have any questions about training? And then I guess lastly would be if you guys had any future agenda items.
Anybody have future agenda items?
Can I answer Ms. Romers's question about proclamation next year?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Romerson, next year is just for pre-K.
Oh, you'll be good then.
Yeah, just for pre-kindergarten. And
And all stuff for student learning.
yeah.
That's great. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Webby. Anybody else? Thank you for the hard work by the IT people who did this and got it together. Appreciate it.
They did good.
If that's it, Barrett, is that it for you?
That's all we have.
Yes, we're adjourned.
Dale, would you
All right. Stay safe, everybody.
appreciate what y'all do?
Yeah.
Thank you. I will let them know.
Thank you.
I've driven
Hi,
to
Cheyenne.
do it, told them myself, but they're doing a tremendous work.
Thank you, Gail.
They are working hard.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you, Gail, and everybody remember to wash your hands.
Yes.
And Barrett, thank you.
You bet.